film, and you can assume different archetypes. You can make it more interesting by wearing some kind of costumes, so that you will be associated with certain characters. So it's just a playful, entertaining, but educational in that sense. So that's those are the two ways. Another way would be for you to highlight on the different paintings that you can find in the world that has something to do with a certain theory. And the one that comes to mind, because during the modernist period, there were many paintings that were being painted that challenged the way paintings were painted before that time. So they were called modernist paintings. It can create some kind of like a mock documentary where you highlight the different paintings that we have in this world that are modernist. That can be also a form of what do you call that? A video. It can be done. Maybe you can kind of like create a video, a small video of a few minutes explaining certain paintings, and one of you can become the editor of the videos and create a video based on this, and then you can put on YouTube. So that could be one way of doing things. I'm sure they can come up with other things as well. So to me, it doesn't sound like it's going to be very difficult to do, especially because we have Google Meet, right? If you have problems coming up with specific videos, you can just meet on Google Meet and just talk about feminism or Structuralism and so on. So, and then we move on to the presentation of selected topic in the form of a blog. So in your assigned group, create a blog where you will analyze 5 types of work using one or more theories that you have studied in this course. So works analyzed in this blog will include one of each of the genres below. So if you have 5 people in your group, then maybe one person can do one work: poetry, novel, short story, film, and painting. But if you have 4, then just eliminate one person, eliminate one item, and then focus on the 4. Anyway, you'll be marked based on, because it's a group assessment, okay? So it's marked based on the group. So make sure that your friends do not plagiarize, because if that person got 0, you will get 0 also, okay? It has happened in the past. So discuss clearly in each entry the way each of the specific genre mentioned above could be read from one variety of approaches. So you can choose an approach that you want to use. For example, maybe you want to discuss about Charlotte Bronte Jane Eyre, which is a novel. You can choose to discuss it from the feminist literary criticism point of view. Okay? Another person can choose to do something on poems. You can discuss the poems of Muhammad Saleh, who is our who is our sastrawan negara at UIA. Okay, so you can discuss his poem based on the eco-criticism point of view. You can find this poem on the net. So each entry will be criticizing the aspects of the literary writings. It should answer the following questions, such as what aspects of the specific theory could be used to analyze the genre. Okay. So maybe you want to discuss about in feminism, we have 2 types of feminism. The kind of like structuralist and post-structuralist. So maybe you can analyze that. You can mention that this is a structuralist approach to reading this work from the feminist lens and so on. So does the genre covertly or overtly, does it show clearly what theory you want to use, or it doesn't show clearly? It shows as a hidden message. You are going to read, for example, Snow White, but you say that it's an anti-feminist story. Okay, so it doesn't show it overtly, clearly that it deals with feminism, but you can use feminism to study it. Could the genre be said to be supportive or challenging the main ideas brought about by the theories? You can say that if you are using Snow White, for example, you want to explain Snow White from the feminist point of view, you can say that the story is challenging feminist point of view because it's showing that women should rely on men. Okay. Snow White herself is being saved by a man. Okay. So you can discuss questions like that in your blog. So excerpts from the blog entries that are plagiarized, again, will be given 0 marks for the whole and 3 for your friends also. So make sure that you don't you don't plagiarize and your friends don't plagiarize. So then we have something that is individual in a sense, because you have to do quizzes. Individually complete 4 quizzes that will be delivered to you via e-link or Google Form, whichever is applicable on the day of the quiz. Okay. So in case our e-link breaks down, you can always, I can always Google Form you the quiz. I can direct you to the Google Form. Okay. And then that has 20 marks. All the other assignments also has 20 marks. Okay. Then finally we have the final examination, and that has 40 marks. Now, most probably it will be delivered to you. The question will be delivered to you a few days before the exam, or maybe one week before the exam, and then you have some time to think about the answer. Okay, and then you have to sit down and write on a specific day, okay, the answer to the final exam question. So it will go under Turnitin. Yeah? So all written assessment will need to be submitted on Turnitin. No late submission will be entertained. Plagiarism will not be tolerated. Plagiarized work will not be marked. And the student will automatically get 0 for that particular assessment. So again, not only that student, but the whole group. Yeah? The student may also be referred to the Office of the Legal Advisor for further action. So each assessment needs to be accompanied by the Declaration of Integrity form. So you must upload this form on Google Classroom. Failure to sign and submit this form will result in a 5-mark deduction for that assessment. Okay. Each student needs to be responsible and accountable for their own assessment. Okay, so do you have any questions so far about this? About the assessment? Anyone wants to ask me about the assessment? I have put this on e-link, so you should be able to read it. Okay, so that's all for this assessment. Now let's have a look at our topic today, which is on structuralism. Okay, so let's have a look at structuralism. Oh, okay, it's another heart attack for me. I didn't remember that my daughter had put some kind of noise at the beginning of the slide. So here we are learning another theory, which is structuralism, and it's the same as humanism. It challenges some of the ideas of humanism, because it says that humanism is very subjective. How we know this world depends on ourselves. That is the argument that humanists put forward. But in structuralism, it's saying that how we know this world depends on the language that we use. Okay? Structuralism is a way of thinking that works to find the fundamental basic units or elements of which anything is made. Structuralism originated in the early 90s in the structural linguistics of Ferdinand de Saussure and the subsequent Prague, Moscow, and Copenhagen schools of linguistics. So structuralism basically is a way of thinking that says we must analyze structures in order to know about the thing that is created in front of us. So everything in this world, according to structuralism, has a structure. And it was founded by Ferdinand de Saussure, who is obviously a Frenchman. It follows Aristotelian science and developments in the 19th century of chemistry and physics. Now, in the 19th century, they created the table of chemicals. Okay? And this table was created based on the quality of the chemicals, whether they are soft or hard, whether they can boil up to a certain point, and so on. So in any case, all the chemicals are put together, are selected together, organized according to the attributes. And this is the best example for a structure, because everything is structured. Even chemicals that we have around us are structured in this table of chemicals. For example, a structuralist analysis of a pencil seeks to analyze how certain atoms combine to make the wood and graphite cylinder of the pencil. So it's saying also that pencils can be analyzed. Anything that can, in this world can be analyzed according to its structure. It appears in many fields such as anthropology, linguistics, mathematics, literary and cultural criticism, all this structuralism. Now, in anthropology, which is a study of aborigines and people who are the original inhabitants of certain places, it seeks to place the aboriginals further away from those who are coming from developed nations. So we have different categorization of societies and so on. So this is one form of structure. In linguistics, is the structure of words. In mathematics, the structure of what do you call that? The calculations that we do and so on. So structuralists are interested in basic elements of units that make up any system, and in discovering the rules that govern how these rules can be combined. Okay, so they are looking at, structuralists are looking at the basic elements of unit, the smaller elements, and then discovering the rules that govern these smaller elements so that it can be organized. And that's it. They are not concerned with anything at all. They're not concerned with who created the structure. They're not concerned with what happens after the structure had vanished away or destroyed and so on. So they're just interested in the structure itself. They're not interested in who created the structure and where it comes from and so on. So how does this work with literature? A structuralist view of literature would be asking what are the main basic units of a text and what are its atoms. Atoms is the most basic structure of anything. But for literature, this basic structure are represented by words. Words that appear in any languages. Okay? So obviously a literary text is written in the form of words. Linguistics was one of the first fields of knowledge to adapt a structuralist perspective. As the most basic atom of a language is word, or the phoneme, which makes sounds that make up words, and the rules are the forms of grammar, which tell you to put words together to make up a sentence. For the study, structuralists and those who study linguistics, they study about the words. And then the rules that govern the words, the grammatical system. In different language, the grammar is different, but the structure of the language is always the same. It has a verb, it has verbs, it has nouns, it has adverbs, it has adjectives, and so on. So structuralism also viewed itself as a kind of science because it seeks to study something that can be seen, something that can be proven, and can be tested, because words are clearly on the paper, on a piece of paper. And the universality of this theory, according to the structuralists, comes from the fact that all cultures are viewed as being the same, in the sense that all of them, from Malaysia to Indonesia, all of our cultures in Malaysia, all of our cultures in Indonesia, in Russia, in Greece, for example, all have languages, and all languages have verbs, adverbs, noun, adjectives, and so on. So they say that structuralism, when it studies all of this, adverbs, verbs, and so on, it is using a universalist approach to studying languages, because languages are viewed as being universal. Everyone has a language, everyone has similar components in a language. So structuralists hold that all human beings are the same, and hence all languages have the same structure regardless of what words they contain. Okay, so they also believe that there are no basic difference between cultures. because language is created by culture and society. Culture is created by society. But there is some problem with this because in certain languages, like Arabic, for example, the word Allah comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator. So it doesn't come from human beings, it comes from the creator. So it complicates this view because it says that language comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At least the word Allah there comes from Allah. Okay? So human beings did not invent the word Allah. Yeah? Allah is the name that Allah has given to himself. So this is a problem because we don't really believe that everything is constructed by human beings. Structuralism sees itself as science of humankind. Structuralists believe that the mechanisms that organize units and rules into meaningful systems come from the human mind itself, which acts like a structuring mechanism that looks at units and parts them according to rules. So there are words that are being used by people in our society, but how do we organize these words? Who teaches us the organization? So according to the structuralists, it's our mind that teaches us how to organize the words. In our mind, there is such a thing as such a process that allows us to, when we hear one word, we know whether it's a noun or a verb or an adverb or adjective. So we know which one it is, you know, according to the context. So this is what is happening to our mind, because our mind can process words that we hear. This means that the order in which we perceive the world is not inherent in the world, but the product of organizing capacity in our minds. So our mind is organizes this world. Language structures how we perceive reality, which is the world. Okay? So our language structures shows us how we should perceive reality, and language is socially constructed according to the structuralists. So language is created by society, according to the structuralists. Has society actually helped us with perceiving the world, help us with knowing about the world, but we still have to, in our minds, we still have to process the words that we hear sometimes. When your mother, for example, when you are a small child, you are a baby, you want to speak, but you haven't spoken, but you hear your mother say, mama, mama. Okay? So in your mind, as a baby, you will have processed that mama is a noun and it belongs to your mother. Okay? So that's how, you know, without this thing in our head, we would think that mama could be a verb, it could be an action, it could be an adverb, it could be an adjective, but it's not any of this. It is a noun. And somehow in our mind, we know that mama is our mother. It stands for mother. And papa, it stands for dad. Okay. So now which, because language structures how we perceive reality, which is the world, we have different languages in this world. Okay? So in Malay, for example, we have many words for rice. We don't have one, we have many. Rice, and rice that is on its stalk can be called paddy. Rice that is processed from the stalk is called beras. Okay, uncooked, cooked rice is called nasi. A slightly different type of rice is called pulut. Glutinous rice is called pulut. If you cook that rice, normal rice with a lot of water, you get kanji. Some people in Malaysia will use different names like nasi air or bubur. Okay, some people use kanji. So there are so many words that we have for one item, which is rice. So it's telling you that in our culture, rice is very important. So that's why we have many words for it. But in the West, rice is not important, so they have one word for it. They call it rice. Whether it's cooked, whether it's not cooked, it's still the same thing. It's rice. So in the West, other things are important. For example, pork. Pork is very important in the West because they like to eat it. But it's haram. We have pork, we have ham, we have bacon, we have I think, what do you call that? We have pork, we have bacon, we have ham, we have, yeah? Somebody wants to say something?
I was gonna say ham also.
Yeah. Other words for it? You know? Piglet, right? A piglet, small pig. Um, you have hog, H-O-G, right? H-O-G is for a male pig, a hog. Yeah? So there's so many. And if in the West, they would eat not only the pork, the babi, okay, but they would use the blood of the pork and create something called black pudding from the blood of porks or pigs. Huh? And then they would also eat parts of it. They would eat its skin. Okay, they would fry it, and it would become some kind of like crisps. I've seen somebody eat it also. They cut the ears of the pig. They would feed it to the dogs. Their animals, their pets. Okay, so it's 101. There are 101 multi-uses for a pig. Yeah. So it's very important to their culture, but it's not to ours. Okay, so you have here the founder, some information on the founder of structuralism. Saussure was famous for course in general linguistics, and when this book was published, he was already dead. Okay, he had passed away, but his students are the ones who produced the book in his name because they admired his work. They collected the notes that he gave them during classes, and they composed the work based on the notes. They are very, very respectful towards their teacher. They knew that Saussure was telling them something that was not common, something that was helpful to other people to understand language. So why study Saussure? Literature made up of language, so we must understand how language works. Saussure, a structuralist, is interested in the universal structure of language. His idea applied to any language and to anything we call signifying system. So he came up with also this very interesting phrase, signifying system. What is a signifying system? It says nothing is a sign unless it is interpreted as a sign. Okay. So this is a signifying system. It is a set of units or rules that creates a method for conveying meaning. For example, a traffic light. A traffic light is a signifying system because the red stands for go, the green stands for stop, and the yellow could be, in Malaysia, it stands for better speed up before you have to stop, right? Okay, but it could be otherwise as well. So this is a signifying system. It has the colors signify something. They mean something. And other types of signifying system could be the sign language that you use. Morse code is another one when you have to you want to communicate with others and you are in two separate places. Your friend and you are in two separate places. You can communicate via Morse code. Okay, and a Braille code. Other signifying systems can be the traffic on the roads. You find different signs for different traffic conditions. Okay, that is another signifying system. So all signifying systems operate according to one of the fundamental principles of any language, which is an association of a word with an idea or a thing. A word is a signifier. An idea or concept is a signified. Okay, so he argues that in any human language, we have words, and words represent things. He says that we have two units in any word. There are signifier and signified. But Saussure abandons the idea that the words get their meanings from the things they represent. Now, the humanists say that when you say a book, for example, B-O-O-K, which is a signifier, that is something that links the word that you use to the book. Okay, there is a connection, there is a strong connection between the word and the item that it represents. Now, Socia says there's no such thing as that because there is a relationship between the signifier and signified, but it is completely arbitrary. Arbitrary means it's created by humankind, and there is no strong link in this connection between signifier and signified. So, according to Socia, in the signifying system known as the human language, there are two units concept, which is signified, and sound image, which is signifier. So there is a connection. There is a connection between signifier and signified. But this connection has three main characteristics. The first is that it's arbitrary. There is nothing in either the thing or the word that makes the two go together. No natural connection whatsoever. There's no natural connection. For example, imagine, I'm sorry, I didn't have the time to put a picture of a dog here. So you can see that, imagine a dog, a concept that signified a dog, yeah? And the signifiers dog in English, perro in Spanish, hund in German, chien in French, and anjing in Malay. So all these signifiers are many, there are many, but one signified. Okay. So this is what he says. Many signifiers could be arbitrarily related to one signifier. The principle of arbitrariness makes it possible to separate the signified from the signifier or to change the relation between them. For example, the word babi nowadays is actually, we are not supposed to use it anymore because it has a negative connotation and we use it in very negative ways like sawan babi, or when we want to say something bad to other people, when we want to curse them, we say babi kau, or gila babi, which is what do you call that? A type of, if you have a seizure, for example, they will say that they have kind of gila babi, right? Okay, so this word is very negative in Malay culture. So, and you know, it's not negative in other people's culture, right? There has been some issue with this because I think Dua Lupa, which is an artist, right? Dua Lupa, her name is even interesting because it has the word Malay word lupa there. So Dua Lupa used babi to call her father, right? Yeah, I think she did that a few some time ago, and then somebody in Malaysia pointed out that babi is pig, so it's something really funny to call one's dad babi. But then he got angry and so on. So there is a controversy about this. But Dua Lupa is not to be blamed here because in her language, babi is a very neutral word. It stands for dad. So, but nowadays we change the signifier to things that yes. So if we have a word that has a negative negative connotation, we tend to change it. We can change it to kinze. Kinze is fairly neutral at this moment. Maybe in the future, who knows? Maybe kinze will become a negative word. Huh? So we have to change again. So we can change again. So perhaps you can give an example from another language. Okay, this is, you know, to save on time. Maybe later we can have some examples from you. Another example is the toilet here. In Malay, we have two words for it, tandas, which is very polite, and then jamban. Jamban is a negative word, right? So it's basically it means the same thing, but jamban has a negative connotation. So in English, we have washroom, loo, which is negative. We have ladies' room, we have so many other words for this. So there are also words, some kind of signs which are less arbitrary than others. And these signs are pantomime, sign languages, and gestures which seem to have a logical relation to what they represent. For example, if we want to hold our nose to indicate dislike of contempt, the idea that it indicates dislike of contempt is fairly clear. So if you hold your nose and stop your nose from smelling the bad thing. But still, this has to be agreed upon by community. So what it means actually, Even though it's a gesture, it has to be agreed upon by a whole community. Socia also dismisses onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia are words that approximate the sounds that are supposed to represent as a conventional agreed upon approximation of a certain sound. For example, in English we have kukel-doodle-doo, and in Spanish we have cocorico. In Malay we have bokoko. Okay, so even though it sounded like the word sound like what a chicken would make, they are different from one language to another. Kukel-doodle-doo, Spanish cocorico, bokoko, and so on. They sound like the chicken, but they're not the same. So interjections also differ from cultures such as English, ouch, French are lay, and Malay are do, right? So this is the difference. Number 2, the signifier, sound, image, and spoken word exist in time, and that time can be measured as linear. You can't say two words at the same time or have both be intelligible. You have to say one word then the next in a linear fashion. The same goes for writing words arranged in a linear fashion. For example, you cannot say I'm a student. Okay, it makes no sense. You have to say a word at a time. I am a student. So in the third and last point, social conceptions of language entails the idea that all thought takes place in the medium of language. So according to Saussure, you cannot think of a concept or a signifier if you do not have a signifier for it. So the thing is, you must have a signifier in order to think about a concept. And then he also came up with the idea of langue and parole. Saussure wants to focus on the system of language as a whole, langue, rather than individual parts of the system, such as parole. So langue there's no on there. Langue can be said in the context of social relations by a community, wherein you will have many paroles, and that parole can be divided into concept and sound image. The concept is the signifier, the sound image is the signifier. So this is one parole. A parole is a word, and langue is a language. But we can have many langues in this world because we have many languages in this world. So we generally talk about meaning in order to discuss about how a signifier and signified come together. Saussure does not talk about meaning. Instead, he focuses on what he calls signification exists on the level of the individual parole. So normally we would say a signifier means a signified. But to Saussure, it doesn't mean this. He says that a signifier signifies a signified. So he's just placing the word signifies with, he's placing the word meaning with signifies. It's just something like that. There is no hidden level of complexity. So instead of saying that a certain signifier means certain signified, so Saussure says that a certain signifier signifies a certain signified. Yeah, I think he is very in love with the idea of signification. So signification is also produced within a structure as a whole at the level of langue. Saussure calls this value. Okay, so meaning, meaning, if you want to use the word meaning is also produced within a structure as a whole at the level of langue, and normal people will call this value. So Saussure is saying that value comes from the fact that one particular term or unit is surrounded by all other items or units of a system. Okay, so for example, what is the value of red? Red is a color, okay? So it has to be compared with other types of colors in order to attain value. Red is red is red because it's not black, it's not white, it's not blue, okay? So red has value because it's not all the other colors. And the word RED, which is a signifier, is or has value because it is not BLUE or WHITE or BLACK. No, it's not all of this. It's just RED. So signifier also attains value by being different from other signifiers. The most important relation between the signifier in the system, the relation that creates value, is the idea of difference. So according to Saussure, one signifier in a system has value because it is not on any of the other signifiers in a system. So all of us also, we attain value because we look different from other people in our class. Okay? Or technically, in a class, if you call the class a signifying system, then you can say that you attain value because you're not like your classmates. Okay? For example, here at the level of Toro, okay, you attain the sorry. Okay, the word T, the letter T, has a positive relation with the sound the. The sound is the signified because when you use the word, the letter T, it's meant to sound the. Okay, it has an arbitrary relation because the can also be signified by another sign or another sign. It can actually be signified by anything that you want it to signify as the. But society as a whole has to agree with this system. So at the level of lung, actually this should have been equal, the sign equal there. It has a negative relation. So the sound t has value because it's not b or it's not p, okay, or the other signifies. Or the letter T has a value because it's not b, it's not B, letter B, or letter F. Okay, so this is something to learn about in life also. If you enter a competition, don't be like other people because you are going to fail. If you look like the same as other people, you're going to fail. You have to be different in a way, but not so different that people would not put you in the same contest. And it has to be different, but people can still put you in the same signifying structure. So it will not matter which sound went with each symbol as long as it could tell the difference between the sounds and the symbols. In course in general linguistics, Saussure explains two more ways in which the unit, or the parole, the word, forms relations with the whole or language. And one is syntagmatic relationship. In syntagmatic relationship, linear relations are very important. Linear means one by one. The words come or are written or spoken one by one. And here we have an example, the cat sat on the mat. It means something different from the mat sat on the cat because the position of a word in a change of syntagmatic relation structures meaning. Okay, so because in English we have subject, verb, object. So whatever is at the front is the subject, and then it does something to the object. So you have this understanding in English that you have to follow subject, verb, object in order to understand what anything means. Syntagmatic relations are crucial in spoken and written language, which is called discourse. Discourse is anything that is spoken and written in a certain language. Now, associative relationship, the other types of relationship are in your memory. For example, in associative relationship, when you want to structure a word, for example, in our heads, sometimes you don't use language at all. You don't use a sentence. You just use an idea. For example, education can be linked to other words that end in "tion," like relation or association. And you may store the word education with other words that evoke a specific experience for you. For example, teacher, textbook, homework, tuition. Okay? You can store it in your head. That's how we organize our language. Or you may store words in what looks like a completely random set of linkages, but what makes sense to you. For example, education, P-Ramlee movies, nasi lemak. So what things are I like? All of these things. And that's how you store the word inside your mind. So associative relationships are only in your head. not in the structure of the language itself or any system outside of your mind. Syntagmatic relations are the product of the structure in which they exist, grammar, but associative relationships are important because they break patterns established in strictly grammatical relations and allow for new ways of linking units, or what is called metaphor. Hence, associative relationship between noun and pronoun is important in literature. So, for example, in literature, we have symbols. There are many symbols. Rose, for example. You can say, a character, for example, can say, I love to see a rose. Okay? I love roses surrounding me. Now, for the one who understands language through syntagmatic relationship, this is sentence is very literal. You will take it to mean that you love roses and that's it. But for someone who understands associative relationship, that person will say the rose is actually a woman. It's not actually a rose, it's a woman. So this person loves a woman because his mind allows him to link rose with a rose with a woman. Or maybe it could be England. Rose is, after all, the national flower of the English people. So it could say that this person loves England. So this is allows for the use of associative relationships in literature, because literature sometimes they have meanings that are hidden. They're not clear to the readers or viewers. In literary theory, structuralist criticism relates literary text to a larger structure, which may be a particular genre. When you use structuralism in literature, you have to see it as a bigger, what do you call that, a bigger system. In the sense that with literature, you would not study one literary work. When you use structuralism, you study many. Okay? And when you study many literary works, or when you study film, for example, literature is like film in many ways because it's a narrative, a storyline. So if you study films, for example, you have to know many films, not just one. And then in order for you to use structuralism, you have to know many films. And the way you structure the films could be on a particular genre. Maybe one genre that you know, thriller, action thriller. So what movies fit under action thriller? What movies fit under horror movies? What movie fits under romantic comedy? So you have all this genre. This is one type of organization. The second type would be a range of intertextual connections. How do you connect one story to another? Okay? If you can find this connection, you can create an organization. For example, a movie, Huntsman, Snow White and the Huntsman. Okay, so how do you link this movie to other movies? You link it to the movie, the original movie, which is on Snow White. Okay? So Snow White and the Huntsman is something that can be categorized in the same category as Snow White. Okay, so you have that kind of link. A model of a universal narrative structure or a system of recurring patterns or motifs can also be a way of structuring narratives or stories. Narratives are stories. It can be a way of structuring stories. For example, the Cinderella has stepmother, stepsister, and prince. Okay, and the good heroine, the good woman. So in Bawang Putih, Bawang Merah, we have stepmother, two sisters, Prince Charming, and the good heroine. So you can structure this in the same classification. But if you look at stories like Goldilocks, okay, and the Three Bears, there is no Prince Charming, there is no heroine, there is no villain, and there are no stepmothers or step sisters. So you cannot classify this inside the same classification as Snow White. Yeah? So you can look at the narrative structure, the storyline. So structuralism sees every text as following some kind of structure, as a reader who adopts a structuralist approach should have knowledge of more than one text. Structural literary criticism argues that literary banter of a text can lie only in new structure rather than in the specifics of character development and voice in which that structure is expressed. It follows the lead of Vladimir Propp, Gildas Julian Grimas, and Claude Levi-Strauss in sticking out basic elements in stories and myths. Okay. Now, in structuralism, also the study of structural literary criticism, we are always looking at how works can have basically a structure that can be identified as in belonging to other structures in one genre, but has something new to it. For example, I'm jumping points here, but it's basically saying the same thing. In Romeo and Juliet, we have a boy and a girl who fall in love with each other. So you can create a formula based on this, boy plus girl, because they love each other, plus. So despite the fact that they belong to two groups that hate each other, boys group minus girls group or opposing forces. And the conflict is resolved by their death. Okay? So we have this structure, boy plus girl, boys group negative or minus girls group, and then at the end, death. So this is the structure of a story. And this structure is, if you know this one play, and I doubt you know this play, which was staged in the 1960s, it's called West Side Story. So West Side Story basically has a boy who falls in love with a girl, and girl falls in love with the boy, but boys group don't like girls group, and in the end they both die. Okay, so it follows Romeo and Juliet's formula. So the structuralists would say that this story does not have any literary banter, a new structure. It basically plays with the old one exactly like the old one. It's like, that it's 100% the same as the old one. So it's not really funny. For them, they want to look at something that is slightly different. Okay, so and then they also said that is it possible to have in structuralism? Some critic pointed out that maybe it's just structuralism is it's not a good theory because it's saying that everything it has to be the same, but there should be some slight differences. Okay. So he believes that something new can also be created without using pre-existing structures. Okay. But in structuralism, we don't believe this. The structuralists don't believe this. They say that everything has to follow a certain structure. And here, West Side Story is following Romeo and Juliet, the structure of Romeo and Juliet. So of higher value to a structuralist reading of multiple texts is to show how multiple texts unify themselves into a coherent system. The versatility of structuralism is such that a literary critic could make the same claim about a story of two friendly families, boys' family plus girls' family. The families like each other. They arrange a marriage between their children despite the fact that the children hate each other. And then the children commit suicide to escape the arranged marriage. So it's an inversion of the Romeo and Juliet story where it's the family that likes each other. But the boy and girls do not like each other, they are fighting. But it ends in the same way, which is committing suicide. So the justification is that a second story structure is an inversion of the first story structure. The relationship between the values of love and the two pairs of parties involved have been reversed. So this, according to the structuralist, is interesting because it's using a very well-known structure, but it's giving it a new interpretation, a new structure in a way. Yeah? In a structure that is not completely new, but has changed a bit, has changed the old one a bit to bring something new, okay, to contribute to the existing structures. So this can be the contribution of structuralism to filmmaking or to novel writing, where you have different you have the use of existing structures, but they are created slightly different from the original one. Okay, does anyone have any question to ask? Yeah, I go very fast. Okay. Do you have any question to ask about structures, about signified and signifiers? Signifiers basically is a word. Signified is the concept. Do you have any question that you want to ask? We know,
Doctor, your explanation is very clear.
Yes, Admina. It would be very good for me if I can see your face.
I don't have any question. I was just saying that your explanation was very clear and I understood. You just explained, Jinko.
Okay. So no question? Okay. Yeah. Okay. I have to. I want to switch on my computer because the battery is very slow. Okay. Now it switch on already. Yeah. The battery. Okay. 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 Anyone wants to have one? To have their question answered? Anyone have a question? Do you know what signifiers are? Is there any problem with that? Sometimes it gets tongue twisting a bit. But signifiers are signs. Signifiers are concepts. Okay. So according to Saussure, many signifiers could have one signifier. But where have we come across the what do you call that, instances where one signifier could have many signifiers? Can anyone answer this question? Where can we find one signifier that has many signifiers? For example, Nurul Aisha, can you answer this question? Where can we find one signifier that has many signifiers? Are you Nurul Aisha? Nurul Aisha?
Yes, Doctor, I'm here.
Okay, so where can you find one signifier that has many signifiers? Can you think about it? Where can you find anyone, anything? Okay, what am I holding in my hand? I cannot see your face. I think it's surely beautiful.
A cup?
Yeah, a cup, okay. Or rather a mug, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. What mug is it? Where is it produced?
A coffee mug?
Yes.
IKEA.
Yeah.
It's an IKEA mug.
Yes, Amira suddenly volunteered to answer. So it is IKEA. Okay. So what mugs are you using? What are you using? How about your mugs? I want to see your mugs. I think only faces here. What mugs are you using? Okay, what is that? Asharifa Aisha. What is that? A glass mug, is it? Okay, take that from your mother's cupboard, right? Today. Okay. Which one has more prestige? My mug or yours? Do you think which one is branded? Obviously mine, right? Huh? Which?
Yes, yours. Yours mug is more branded because it comes for IKEA.
Okay, so I have more prestige then because I use a branded good, right? Even my mug is branded. You think that it's really better than your mug? I don't think so because I know IKEA. I bought a lot of mugs and it's easily chipped. Okay, it's really broken actually. So actually, I think the quality is not really that good for mugs. For other things as well, for other things it can be quite good, but not for mugs. So my cup, my mug is branded and yours isn't, right? Okay. So and what else can you say about IKEA? It's branded. It is some people say it's better, right? Because it's
Imported.
branded. Yeah, you think so? What else? Is how about the price? The price, perhaps because it's branded, slightly higher, more expensive, perhaps, or maybe not. It's cheap. So what do you call these things? They call the prestige, the what do you call that? The price, the appearance, okay, of these signifieds. You call them signifieds. You call the brand, the price, the appearance of the cup, you know, it's fashionable. You call them signifieds. So one signifier, mug, for example, MUG, can stand for so many things. For example, IKEA mug, that could be a signifier. IKEA mug, you cannot like any mugs. IKEA mug has many signifiers. For example, it is branded, it is fashionable, it is cheap, it is convenient for you to use. Okay, so this is where we find one signifier having many signifiers. Yeah. We live in that world today because we live in a world that emphasizes branded goods. Okay, and it's also asking us to brand ourselves. Okay, we live in a world that is asking us to sell ourselves also to companies, for example, because we're selling them an image of ourselves. Make sure that this image is not an empty one. That's something we can learn. Make sure that when you say that you are a good worker, that you are really a good worker rather than just a brand. So, do you have any other things that you want to share, you want to ask? Can you see the arbitrary relationship between the signifier and signified? Yeah, I can see only one person's face. Okay, I wish I could say Amira Mahathir. Is your father Mahathir Mohamad? Right? No, of course it's Nina, right? But you can see it helps to see your faces also. Okay. I can say arbitrary related. There is no strong relationship or connection between signifier and signified. Okay, so I see. What else can you? I'm just wondering what question to ask you. Do you know what is the difference between lang and parole? How about you, Balkis Chetwani? Do you know what is lang or what is parole? What is lang and what is parole? Balkis? These people here, I'm just saying they're signifiers, but not the signifieds. Huh? I see your signifiers, but not your signifieds. Are you here?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so there is a signified behind that signifier of yours. Yeah. So, what is lang? What is lang and what is parole?
Lang is more structure form, and parole spoken word.
Okay, parole is word. Actually,
Yeah.
it can be written, it can be spoken, but lang is the structure of language as a whole. Yes. Okay. Lang can actually be also something like a signifying system. It can be a signifying system. And parole is an item inside the signifying system. For example, sign language. We have the whole lang of sign language, the way, the many signs that people make, and one parole could be one sign language. Okay, now I want to ask you, but because it says, the slide says that some paroles are linked more closely to the thing that they represent, or some signifiers are linked more closely to the signified that they represent. Is that true? In terms of gestures, for example, what how does an Indian man, for example, say no? Okay. How does an Indian man say no? How do you say no? Can you see your faces? I'm seeing that there are so many shy people here. You can see your faces there. It helps to see your faces. Yeah. Okay, so Suhaili Rahman. Okay, so how does an Indian man say yes? Oh no. Let's look at how an Indian man says no. Can you guess? Do you like to watch Bollywood movies? Nahi. Okay. No. I'm talking about gestures. Gestures. Okay, there. Sharifah Aisha, you're gesturing with, you're shaking your head. That's how you say no? Okay. So say that to your Indian friend, and your Indian friend will say, it's a gesture. Well, it's a gesture, the way you use your body parts to sign something. Do you see this like this? Like Sharifah Aisha, she does it better than I do. Is that the sign for no to Indian people? Think about clearly, actually. There was some problem a few years back with Dr. Subra. I don't know whether you remember him or not, but maybe you weren't here at UAE when he was working here. And my colleague mentioned something, and then to him, and then he said, and then my colleague said, I thought you said that you liked what I just said. And then he said, okay, yes, no, Mashita, I think yes. So I think, and then the other person said, you just shook your head. How can you be saying yes? You shake your head. Apparently, this in Indian culture means yes. Okay, shaking your head means yes, not no. It means yes. Okay, but don't do that to the Indians. They believe that means yes. Now, how do they say no? No actually is nodding. Okay, so this is yes, then this is no. Yeah, so it's kind of different in our different cultures. How about this one? What is this? I was when I was in I traveled once to Singapore. I went to the Universal City. I don't know, Universal what? Studio. Okay, it's a studio. So the worker, they would let us form lines, and then I said something to the worker. I forgot what I said, but the worker did this. Okay. So I thought, what is that? What is that? I don't understand this line. Okay, but then I just found out. I asked my previous classes. They were all young like you, but they don't understand either what this means. What is this? And then I found out from the internet that it actually means cool. It's cool, man. Cool. Okay. So okay, it sounds like the devil for me. The two ones, but it makes it's supposed to mean cool, but to certain cultures, not the American culture, which make this sound in the first place, but certain cultures say this is derogatory. It means that I don't want to say it because it's too bad. It means a terrible thing. Yeah. So signs like this can be arbitrary. You can see that, look at our brother there. Looking at the sign here, you can see the two horns from his head there. Very, very negative sign, right? If you make this one, it can be like that. It can be a devil. So that is something to be said about arbitrary relationship between signifier and signified. Okay. Anyone wants to say anything? I expect from you some very good videos because you don't seem to ask me any question. But we can see that it can be used. You can use archetypal. You can borrow some archetypal ideas for your structuralist if you are doing structuralism. It can be on the sign languages. You can have a kind of like what do you call that? a joke with the signs. It can be like that, right? So it can create a joke with the sign. I think say yeah. I just needed to say that. Yeah. So it can produce many encounters, many funny encounters, because we all have different signs, actually, different signifying structures that are related to our culture, but other people may misunderstand, like what happened to Dua Lipa or Dua Lipa, you know. But it said that her father is not, is called Babi because he's not a pig, it's just the way they call their fathers. So this is just one of the other ways. So anyway, anyone has any question to ask, you can also make something funny. For example, if you want to do for your creative video, you can take the story of bawang putih, bawang merah, and you can invert that. Bawang putih in the original story stands for somebody who is evil, right? The sister who is evil. Bawang merah, sister who is good. Why not for your video, we create the same story, but we have bawang putih as the heroine and bawang merah as the evil sister. But it is always, it ends in the same manner. For example, bawang putih will get married to a prince. Yeah. But how does happen? Bawang putih is the sister whose mother is still alive, or Merah's mother is still dead. Yeah. Create. Malays especially, they don't really think highly of their culture, so they don't create from well-known stories of their culture. They could create a movie based on bawang putih, bawang merah, the original, but can invert the structure, like what the Westerners do. They have Snow White and the Huntsman. They have so many versions of Snow White. Okay, so without me babbling even further, do you have any question that you want to ask? Do you have anything you want to ask? No? Nothing? Okay, so I'll see you in our next class on next week on Thursday. Okay. I'm in the process of creating a video also using iMovie. Because I want to prove to you that it is possible to create a video, and I know even though I'm 50, I can create a video that is entertaining. Okay, so let me ciao, or let me say goodbye to you at this point. Okay. Thank you so much for coming to class. I will stop this. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
You're not going to take a picture.
Doctor.
Thank you. Now I'm seeing so many faces. Right? Before this, no, I cannot see. Suddenly, everyone is awake at the end. Okay. Okay, that's bye-bye.
Assalamualaikum, Doctor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor. Assalamualaikum.